Hello, I am 𝗥𝗲𝗂𝗧𝗏 from eToro and welcome to another episode of Money Talks. This week Apple have nabbed a key executive from Lamborghini's electric car team, but rumour has it this car will not drive like a Lamborghini. The fact Apple is developing a car at this point is no secret. However, the only thing we know for sure pretty much is that Apple are developing an electric car and that it's probably coming out in 2025, and that's it. So, is that the end of the video? Hell no. There's a hell of a lot to speculate on here based on external companies working on the project and all the surrounding rumours. Today I'm going to get into what those rumours are and how should the potential unveiling of the Apple car affect how we value the business. Apple's car project is known internally by Apple as Project Titan, and I was really surprised to hear that they are potentially going to release this car in 2025. But this is not confirmed by Apple. 𝗕𝗏𝗏, hired by Apple, specialises in chassis and vehicle dynamics. This project began back in 2014 when Apple hired over 1,000 car experts and is rumoured to have undergone multiple rethinks, and was also rumoured to be completely shelved at one point. However, the project seems to be ramping up again since 2020, with the focus being on one word in particular: driverless. This is the rumour that I am most excited about. This car might be the first car with no pedals, no steering wheel, and in case it's not blindingly obvious at this point, no driver. But please don't ask me how they're going to pull it off. We've known Apple to pull off some pretty incredible things in the past. I just have absolutely no idea how they're going to do this one. Now, before I get further into this, one man, I won't mention his name, has made the whole driverless car debate a bit polarizing. It's likely you have your own views on whether cars can or should be driverless. Please do leave those views in the comments down below. However, just to be clear, this is just my opinion and my speculation. Go easy on me, guys. Okay, first off, for me, where this gets interesting is price. How much will this car cost to the consumer? Being realistic, this car is not going to be the Volkswagen ID.3, Volkswagen's consumer electric car. In my opinion, with the Apple car, we're probably looking at the 40 to 50k price mark. Just my opinion, as this is pretty similar to the Tesla Model 3. However, just because the overall price of the car is higher than the ID.3, does this mean that the Apple car will be overpriced compared to the ID.3 for the consumer? If you visited the Apple site recently in the last couple of years, you'll notice that they actually offer 0% finance on all of their products, including their laptops, not just their phones anymore. And so if you're thinking about buying an Apple product brand new off the shelf, if you're specifically thinking about that, then this is a no-brainer for you, purely from an economic point of view. It costs absolutely no different to buying in 24 payments as opposed to just one. Now, I still prefer to buy things outright if I can, but in this instance, if you're specifically looking to buy something new, you would be a bit mad not to do this in this instance, as future money is always worth less than today's money. Purely economically speaking, if you have the opportunity to defer payment into the future without paying any interest, then theoretically, you absolutely should take it. If Apple continue this project of 0% finance onto Project Titan, Apple could both be more expensive than other cars and cheaper to the consumer, both at the same time. If the car is, let's say, £40,000 with 0% finance for 5 years, that works out at £666 per month, assuming that you make no down payment on the car. Pack in much cheaper fuel costs. Not only is it electric, but it's a driverless, more efficient electric car, and no car insurance on the driver, then despite paying more for the car, it could be more economical, even when compared to the most consumer-centered electric car like the Volkswagen ID.3. However, this leads me nicely into one focus I hope Apple will have over its competition. And it's also an enormous benefit of being a driverless car: longevity. Now, I don't personally own a car. I'd love to own one. In my city, parking's crazy expensive, and Fuel is also getting more costly. However, electric cars make the cost of driving seem far more reasonable to me. However, there's one cost I'm concerned about with an electric car that is a big issue for me. It's the depreciation of value of the vehicle itself, specifically the longevity of the battery. If I get a 5-year finance plan on a car, I want to know that I'm going to be able to either use or sell the car at the end of it for a good price. Tesla notoriously want to build the world's first million-mile battery. This is not a car that can drive 1,000,000 miles on one charge. This is a car that will drive 1,000,000 miles over its lifetime. Put better, that's a car that will have at least 80% charge capacity at the end of a 30-year time period. Or roughly speaking, that's how I see it. Imagine if at the end of 5 years, Apple guarantee that your battery will not have lost any less than 5 to 10% efficiency, while also posing a side benefit of charging faster potentially than the Volkswagen ID.3, utilising their battery technology. Also, by the way, for any of you thinking that electric cars take ages to charge, the Volkswagen ID.3, not an extremely expensive car by any standards, it's $35K brand new. This Volkswagen ID.3 will charge from 5% to 80% in 35 minutes. Now we do need more charging stations across the country, I'll grant that, but you can see with these charging stations, electric cars can be both economic and practical. By the way, I also need to make clear that 80% charge on the Volkswagen ID.3 is about 200 miles. And for an idea of how far 200 miles is, that's about London to Wales in just one 35-minute charge. Also, this leads me nicely into my theory as to why I believe Apple have hired Lamborghini's electric chassis and vehicular. Also, this leads me nicely into why I believe Apple have hired Lamborghini's electric chassis and vehicular dynamics executive. I think it's so that they can focus on the energy efficiency of the chassis longer term. Cars driven by a computer, when compared to humans, will be able to drive much more efficiently, not using nearly as many kilowatts per mile as humans do on the road. Funnily enough, this has also been a cornerstone of most of Apple's other product releases. Apple have been, in their latest iPhone devices and MacBook devices, they've been using software to increase the efficiency of their batteries to incredible effect. Apple's products continually outperform the competition on battery, even when the competition are the same price and have bigger batteries by milliamp hour. So if Apple do release a car and it is revolutionary, how does this affect the value of the business? Well, when you do a basic free cash flow analysis on Apple at the minute, despite the fact that they are an incredible business, they generally seem to come out slightly overpriced. Well, at least it does for me when I do my due diligence, and it seems to for other big investors that I follow, it seems to come out a little bit overpriced for them too. However, this is maybe one of the examples of where basic free cash flow analysis could get in the way of you finding the maximum value of a business. When Apple enter the electric car market, they will have an extremely tough time ahead of them. However, I think it's probably quite likely that the Apple car will become the world's best-selling consumer car. It's actually causing me to question a little bit my long position with Volkswagen. Apple's AirPods, for example, just on their own, if taken away from the rest of Apple as a company, the revenue just generated by AirPods can almost make up the entire revenues of Tesla. And I also think it's safe to assume that the margins Apple make on AirPods, these tiny little plastic things with little chips in that are just nicely tuned, will probably make more margin than Elon Musk makes on his Teslas. However, personally, the reason I think Apple, and actually this goes for Tesla too, will dominate the electric car market is because having production facilities set up and running is nowhere near as important as having a product consumers can't wait to buy. The Apple iPhone, simply by being released and existing, caused the BlackBerry to become incredibly irrelevant. A company with no phone market share completely eliminated its competition. Because it didn't matter that BlackBerry knew how to make phones, and they had production lines set up and had been doing it for years. They didn't have the product consumers really wanted. When Apple began using their benefits of scale and have parts for the car provided by existing manufacturers that know what they're doing, and Apple can use their reputation and capital to guarantee very, very high production standards, I think it might make products like the Volkswagen ID.3 look like a BlackBerry, just in the same way the iPhone did. The 10K or even 20K price tag that will be on top of it might seem like a lot more when it's released, but when it's spread over 10 years, won't the sacrifice and the money saving down the line kind of seem worth it? Also, most cars in this price zone, and that includes the Volkswagen ID.3, I feel are designed around people who like driving, or at the very least have a driving license. Surely the market of people who want to drive and enjoy driving is smaller than the market of people who just want to get to a location. On top of this, I would love to see a car that just focused on all the other aspects of a good driving experience or a good journey experience. So few cars seem to really pour time into making the aircon good and the speakers great, and you're spending 30 grand on this thing and it doesn't have speakers that are better than my Bose speaker that I bought for £200. This is something that Elon Musk has begun to touch on, and he's pushed the industry forward a bit, but I think it's something that Apple will smash out of the park, the way other car companies just haven't come close to yet. To be clear, I want to make you aware that I don't currently own any Apple shares. I can't bring myself to buy a business that I deem overpriced, and I can't see in the short term where Apple is going to get its growth from. And I think I'd rather buy Apple after they've invested more of their capital into the production of the electric car. However, one reason that I might consider buying this before the car's release is if I see this becoming the world's best-selling car. And I can see Apple doing this because they will have both enormous demand from their brand name Apple and incredible production capabilities. So they'll have the brand power that Tesla has, but the production capacity of Volkswagen or Ford. This is something that Tesla has found extremely hard. However, I do think it's driven more demand for its vehicles. This is why I am confident that Apple will be or will have the best-selling car of the decade. But what would that mean for their revenue? Well, the best-selling car in 2021 was the Toyota Corolla. So let's use this car as a benchmark to measure the Apple car after its release. If Apple sells as many cars as the Toyota Corolla, it will sell 1.1 million cars worldwide. However, if it's fully driverless, it will have a larger market share than this car, as it will be able to be sold not just to people who currently drive, but to people that potentially never held a license before. Now, on top of that, I think this car will be valued, or priced, sorry, at £40,000 at least. But to keep this estimation low, let's just imagine the car is selling at £30,000. Now, this would be 10 grand more than the Toyota Corolla, but an estimated revenue of 3.3 billion per year on top of their current revenue. Now, if this is a driverless car, it could actually also cost less to build than a Toyota Corolla, as the most expensive bit will be the AI, and so it will be a far simpler car to put through production lines. And since it's simpler to get from production lines, they should also be able to get more through the factory than their competition, and they'll likely offer less customization than other companies. All this leads me to believe that Apple will not only have the world's best-selling car, but the car that provides the most margin to the manufacturer. But the issue here is 3.3 billion just isn't that much for Apple. And so I don't actually know how one car is going to affect the overall value of Apple as a business. This has to be the car that has the largest market share of any car on the planet for it to be worth them doing. And that is why I'm not allowing this unveiling of them doing a car to affect my free cash flow analysis right now. 3.3 billion revenue to them just isn't much on top of their, what I think is 250 billion revenue. That would be less than 1.5%. However, that's just my opinion based on me watching Apple all my life and a few rumours that we don't even know are true. So please don't take this video too seriously, and do let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching this one. I really enjoyed making it. I love speculating about the idea of an Apple car existing It's such an exciting concept and I really can't wait to see what they do with it, but I just wanted to give my take on what that means for the stock as a business. Now, this is my first year doing YouTube. I'm really trying to hit 1,000 subscribers before the end of 2022. If you could help me out by subscribing, that would be brilliant. Thank you so much. Cheers guys, goodbye.